everyone, today we're talking about becoming enlightened, background checks, and how they're more than just applying for a new job. My name is Isaiah Goodman, the Chief Financial Advocate at Becoming Financial. I know everybody's heard about a background check. Typically it's when you apply for a new job. But today I wanted to talk about a couple different other types of background checks and maybe some things that you didn't know were in your background check when you apply for a new role. So yes, when you apply to a new job, hopefully you're improving your income or quality of life somehow. And that's where most people stop. They say, I got to do a background check, I got to do a drug test or something like that so I can clear this thing and start getting paid more. Well, there's a couple things that I want to recommend that you take a look at or think about that might not have crossed your mind. Number one, background checks can actually affect your rental costs. So believe it or not, when you do apply for like a rental or, obviously to own a home, there's a background check that they can say, hey, this person has a history of bad rental payments. Maybe we're not going to approve them for our apartment building. Or they've got a really, really bad credit score. We're going to take this person with the higher credit score versus this person. So long term, I want you to really think, hey, how am I doing with my credit? How am I doing with my rental history, my mortgage payments? Because there's a part of your background check that shows on-time payments for rental history. One place that's really cool to check out to improve rental history or just to make sure you manage it, it's a place I heard about called rentalkarma.com. Just neat idea for you to check out. If you're not reporting your rental history, maybe your landlord will help you do that. Another big thing is the bank system called checks. So I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's essentially a system that is managing the behind the scenes of the banking industry. So if you're somebody that always, writes checks that are paid on time and you don't have any overdraft or anything like that, don't worry about this one. If you're the other crowd, you might have some overdrafts, you might have written some bad checks, maybe accounts have closed on you. What you want to see is, can you get your checks system report? So you can go to a bank sometimes if you apply for a new account and they say, no, you don't qualify. Well, ask for your check system report. This will say, maybe you had an old bank account that got closed that you still owe a certain amount on. If you pay that off, that'll clear that off your check system report. Or if you've got a bunch of overdrafts on your account, as time goes on, if you can spread out the time between the overdrafts, hopefully eventually eliminate them, that'll clean up your check system report and hopefully give you a better promise to get a different bank account or open new types of accounts for different entities if you're a business. So check out that background report there for check systems that almost all banks use. Another big one to think about is your motor vehicle history report. So if you're somebody who's gotten some speeding tickets or you've gotten some sort of DUI or something like that, that can affect your insurance. If you've been sort of flabbergasted about why auto insurance costs a ton, check your motor vehicle report. If you've got a lot of tickets in the past few years, if you have any sort of moving violation, that might be why your insurance costs a lot, because they're going to check your motor vehicle history report and then they're going to charge you more for insurance. Some of that stuff might not be right. So check that out, see if you can get that cleared up, and then obviously be thoughtful of that. If you're driving around and you say, I can't afford a ticket because I have to pay it today, also think down the road, do I want to pay higher insurance premiums for the next 3 or 5 years because I've got X number of tickets on my record? Another big thing to think about, criminal history report. Obviously, if you've got a criminal history, it's going to be a lot harder to get certain types of jobs. For example, in the finance industry, it's really hard to get a job if you've got any sort of finance or fraud criminal history. Think about that in terms of your long-term prospects of, if I can get that new job or if I can move to that new type of role, can't have a criminal background. I think that's enough of that. Other big things, things like evictions. So there is actually a report, a public history report at your county, city, or state, where if you've had an eviction or even just a filing, so you might have not actually gotten kicked out of your apartment or your dwelling place, but even if they just filed the paperwork, that sits on your background report. So if you apply for a new mortgage or you apply to a new apartment, that might be on there. So you can actually see if you can get that expunged or cleaned up. If it didn't go through or if there was something wrong with it, maybe it was unjust. Last thing, if you have any sort of tax liens. So believe it or not, a tax lien can affect your credit report. If you owe back taxes, that's going to really affect your credit in a negative way. Even though it's not a credit card, it's not a loan, essentially the government is saying you owe us this money, and so we're going to negatively impact your credit for that. And now obviously there's a number of different things you might need your credit for. So if you have any sort of tax lien, make sure you're double checking that background report, paying off those taxes, or at least setting up a payment plan so that long term you can clean those things up.